You've been in a war you didn't know you were fighting, and you might be losing. No one threw a punch, no one raised their voice, but somehow you feel smaller, less confident, like you're walking on eggshells in your own life. Your reputation has shifted, your friends seem distant, your opportunities have dried up, and you can't point to a single moment where someone actually attacked you. That's because they didn't need to. The most dangerous people don't destroy you with violence. They destroy you with precision, with psychology, with an understanding of human nature so deep that they can dismantle your entire world while looking like they did nothing at all. This is Machiavelli's real lesson, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. The game you didn't know you were playing. Here's what they don't teach you. Human society has always been a game of invisible warfare. We like to pretend we've evolved past it, that we're civilized, rational, that we solve conflicts with words and compromise. But underneath every smile, every handshake, every "we should catch up sometime," there's a calculation happening, a measurement. Are you a threat? Are you useful? Are you someone I need to neutralize? You think I'm being cynical. You think I'm describing sociopaths, not normal people. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You do this too. You just don't call it warfare. You call it setting boundaries when you freeze someone out. You call it being honest when you expose someone's hypocrisy. You call it protecting your energy when you strategically withdraw from someone who needs you. Machiavelli understood something most people spend their lives denying: that humans are political animals, not in the voting sense, in the power sense. Every interaction is a negotiation. Every relationship has a hierarchy. And the people who pretend otherwise, they're usually the ones getting played. But here's where it gets really interesting. The most effective form of destruction isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not the explosive argument or the public call-out. Those are amateur moves. Those leave evidence. Those give your target something concrete to defend against. No, real power destroys quietly. It destroys through absence, through implication, through the slow, methodical erosion of someone's social foundation until they collapse under their own weight. And the genius of it? They never see you coming. Because you never actually did anything. Think about the last time you felt excluded, not obviously rejected, just not included. You weren't invited to something. You weren't consulted on a decision. Your messages got shorter, less enthusiastic replies, nothing you could confront someone about, nothing that would make sense to bring up without sounding paranoid or needy. But you felt it, that shift, that distance, that slow, creeping realization that your place in someone's world was shrinking. That wasn't an accident. That was architecture. And the person who did it to you, they learned it the same way you'll learn it today, by being on the receiving end. Because that's how invisible warfare spreads. Victim becomes perpetrator. Perpetrator creates new victims. And the cycle continues, hidden beneath the surface of polite society. The weapon of controlled absence. Let me tell you about the cruelest weapon in human psychology: strategic withdrawal. It's so simple, it sounds stupid. You just stop responding with enthusiasm, stop initiating, stop being available, stop treating someone like they matter. But here's why it's devastating. Humans are wired for connection. It's not a personality trait, it's survival biology. For 300,000 years, exclusion from the group meant death. Your brain still thinks it does, which means when someone withdraws from you, it doesn't just hurt your feelings. It triggers panic, actual physiological panic, the same neural pathways that fire when you're in physical danger. Studies show that social rejection activates the anterior cingulate cortex, the same brain region that processes physical pain. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between being excluded and being physically injured. That's not metaphor. That's neuroscience. Now imagine someone who understands this, who knows that by simply pulling back their attention, their approval, their presence, They can cause you actual suffering. And the beautiful cruelty of it? You can't even accuse them of doing anything wrong. What are you going to say? You're destroying me by not texting back fast enough. You sound crazy. You sound needy. You sound like the problem. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved." But he missed the real power move. It's better to be absent, because fear still gives someone significance. Love gives them value. But absence? Absence communicates that someone is so irrelevant, they don't even register as worth considering. Watch what happens to people when you withdraw from them. They don't get angry, not at first. They get confused, then anxious, then desperate. They start reaching out more, apologizing for things they're not even sure they did, modifying their behavior, trying to figure out what will bring you back. They become obsessed with solving a puzzle you created simply by stopping. And you? You don't have to maintain anything. Once you establish the withdrawal, it perpetuates itself. The silence becomes its own message. The absence becomes its own presence. You've weaponized nothing. The philosopher Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who resisted Nazi Germany and was executed for it, wrote about cheap grace. The desire for forgiveness without transformation. This weapon denies cheap grace completely. It says, "You're not owed my attention. Earn it back, or accept your irrelevance." Most people can't handle that pressure. They crumble under it, and you never had to attack them once. The reputation kill. Your reputation isn't real. I need you to understand this. Your reputation is a story that exists in other people's minds. It's a collaborative fiction. And like any story, it can be edited, rewritten, corrupted. The question is, who's holding the pen? Here's how a reputation dies. Someone plants a seed, not an accusation. Accusations can be defended against. Just a question. I'm probably reading too much into this, but did you notice how Marcus takes credit for other people's work? They say it casually, to one person, maybe two. And they frame it as concern, not criticism. They're not saying Marcus is a credit thief. They're just wondering, inviting others to notice. That's all it takes. Because once the seed is planted, confirmation bias does the rest. Now when Marcus presents an idea, people are watching. When he says, "We did something," they're listening for whether he acknowledges others. Every normal behavior gets reinterpreted through this new lens. And within weeks, without Marcus doing anything different, the story has changed. People know he's a credit thief. They can't point to a specific incident, but they feel it's true. This is Plato's cave in action. Plato warned us, people don't see reality. They see shadows of reality. And whoever controls the light source controls what shadows people see. You don't need to attack someone directly. You just need to cast the right shadows and let people's minds do the work. The genius of this weapon is its deniability. If Marcus ever confronts someone, they can honestly say, "I never accused you of anything. I just asked a question." And they're right. They didn't attack, they just nudged the narrative. The attack happened in the collective consciousness of everyone who heard the question and started looking for answers. Machiavelli understood this completely. He wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." What he meant, perception is reality. It doesn't matter what you actually did. It matters what people believe you did. And belief can be manufactured through implication, through strategic doubt, through carefully placed questions that invite people to arrive at the conclusion you wanted them to reach, but on their own, so it feels like their insight, not your manipulation. And once a reputation shifts, everything changes. Your confidence becomes arrogance, your assertiveness becomes aggression, your kindness becomes manipulation. You're not fighting facts anymore, you're fighting a narrative. And narratives are almost impossible to reverse. The mirror technique. There's a specific kind of destruction that doesn't even require you to do anything. You just reflect. Hold up a mirror. Show someone the gap between who they claim to be and who they actually are. And watch them implode. We all have contradictions. The environmentalist who takes unnecessary flights, the body positivity advocate who still makes subtle comments about other people's weight, the mental health champion who treats their assistant like garbage. These contradictions are human. We're all hypocrites in small ways because we're complex creatures trying to live up to impossible standards. But most of us grant each other grace for this. We understand that people are works in progress. We don't weaponize someone's failures to live up to their own ideals. Until someone decides to. Nietzsche wrote about slave morality, how the powerless use moral standards as weapons against the powerful. They can't compete on strength or resources, so they compete on virtue. And the deadliest move is exposing someone's moral failures publicly, not as a path to accountability or growth, but as a destruction mechanism. Here's how it works. Identify someone's public values, the identity they perform, the principles they broadcast, and document every time they violate those values. Don't make it about right or wrong in general terms. Make it about their hypocrisy specifically. You wrote a whole thread about supporting local businesses, but I noticed you order everything from Amazon. You talk about vulnerability, but you've never once admitted when you were wrong. The target can't defend themselves. Because it's true. Not completely true, not fairly contextualized, but true enough that denial looks like deflection. And the accusation hits harder because it's using their own standards against them. You're not imposing your values, you're holding them accountable to theirs. This weapon thrives in our current culture. We live in a world where everyone is expected to have perfect consistency between their beliefs and behaviors, their public statements and private actions, where one mistake can cancel years of good work, where grace is seen as enabling and accountability has become indistinguishable from destruction. And the people who wield this weapon? They're not doing it from a place of genuine moral concern. They're doing it from resentment, from envy, from the desire to bring someone down. But they dress it up in the language of justice, of holding people accountable, of speaking truth to power. And it works. Because who wants to defend a hypocrite? Even if we're all hypocrites ourselves. The uncomfortable truth. So here's the part where I tell you something you don't want to hear. You've already used these weapons. Maybe not consciously, maybe not with malicious intent, but you've done it. That time you gave someone the silent treatment instead of having a difficult conversation, that was strategic withdrawal. That time you subtly excluded someone who'd wronged you from group plans, that was controlled absence. That time you just asked questions about someone's behavior to a mutual friend, that was reputation manipulation. That time you publicly pointed out someone's contradiction between their stated values and actual behavior. That was the mirror technique. You did these things, and you probably told yourself it was justified. They deserved it. They hurt you first. You were just protecting yourself. And maybe all of that is true. Maybe they did deserve it. But here's what Machiavelli really understood, what most people miss when they read The Prince. He wasn't teaching people to be cruel. He was revealing that they already were. He was holding up a mirror to human nature and saying, look, this is what we actually do. Stop pretending otherwise. The weapons I've described aren't special tactics that only manipulative people use. They're default human behaviors. They're built into our psychology. We all wield them unconsciously whenever we feel threatened or hurt or competitive. The only difference between you and someone you'd call manipulative is that they do it consciously. They've named the game. They've mastered the mechanics. They've turned instinct into strategy. And now that you know, now that you see the game clearly, you have a choice to make. A real one. You can use this knowledge to protect yourself, to recognize when these weapons are being used against you, to navigate the social world with clear eyes instead of naive assumptions. That's legitimate. That's smart. Or you can use it to hurt people, to even scores, to climb hierarchies by pushing others down, to become the very thing that once hurt you. Both paths are available. Both are human. And the scariest part, the second path is easier. Because once you've been hurt by these weapons, once you've felt their power, there's a dark satisfaction in wielding them yourself. In making others feel what you felt. In winning the game instead of being its victim. So what will you choose? The cost of mastery. Let me tell you what happens when you become good at this. When you master the art of invisible warfare. When you can dismantle someone's reputation with a few well-placed questions, manipulate their emotions with strategic absence, destroy their confidence with perfectly timed mirrors of their hypocrisy. You win. That part works. People learn not to cross you. They become careful around you. Respectful. Maybe even afraid, though they'd never name it that way. You get what you want. Space, power, control, revenge, whatever you were seeking. But here's what you lose. Yourself. Because you can't spend months or years calculating social dynamics, viewing relationships as chess games, treating vulnerability as weakness, and remain capable of genuine connection. You can't become someone who weaponizes human psychology and then wonder why you feel empty, why your friendships feel transactional, why you can't remember the last time you let someone see you without strategy. Nietzsche warned us, "He who fights with monsters should be careful, lest he thereby become a monster." And if you gaze for long into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. This isn't poetry. It's prediction. When you study how to hurt people efficiently, when you practice emotional manipulation, when you train yourself to see everyone as a potential threat or asset, you change. The calculating coldness that was supposed to be a tool becomes your personality. And here's the cruelest irony. The people you destroyed will move on. They'll heal, rebuild, find new relationships. But you're stuck with what you became in the process of destroying them. You're stuck knowing you're capable of that calculated cruelty, that you can look someone in the eye while quietly engineering their social downfall. That you have that darkness inside you and you've used it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Not to match cruelty with cruelty, not to become what you hate, but to be different. To choose dignity over retaliation, to maintain your humanity when others lose theirs. That's harder. It's riskier. You might lose by operating that way, but at least you lose as yourself. At least you keep the part of you that makes life worth living. The part that can love without calculating, trust without gaming out betrayals, connect without constantly running threat assessments. The question isn't whether you can destroy someone without attacking them. You can. The question is, can you live with who you become in the process? So, here we are. You now understand the game. You see the invisible weapons. You recognize how people are dismantled quietly, strategically, with psychological precision. And you probably recognize moments when these weapons were used on you and moments when you used them on others. This knowledge is power. But like all power, it's morally neutral. It can protect or destroy, defend or attack. The tool doesn't determine the outcome. You do. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not to celebrate cruelty, but to reveal it, to show how power actually works, stripped of pretense and moralistic decoration. He wanted people to see clearly, so they could choose consciously. Because unconscious cruelty is still cruelty. You just get to pretend you're innocent. So I'm not going to tell you what to do with this. I'm not going to give you a moral lesson wrapped in a bow. Because you're an adult, and you already know the difference between protection and aggression, between boundaries and punishment, between defending yourself and destroying others. What I will say is this. Every choice you make about how to wield these weapons, or whether to wield them at all, is a choice about who you're becoming. Not just who you are today, but who you'll be a year from now, 5 years from now. When you look back at your life and ask whether you became someone you're proud of, or someone you barely recognize. The invisible war is real. It's happening all around you, whether you participate or not. But your participation, how you participate, that's yours to decide. So decide consciously. Because the most dangerous thing isn't knowing how to destroy someone without attacking them. It's destroying yourself in the process and never realizing until it's too late.